Welcome into a live Broncos mailbag. Today's show was filmed during our live show, by the way, which was Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern. 4 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Eastern. Regardless, if anything I say becomes a little bit dated because we know how fluid NFL offseason can be, just bear with me and move along to the next question more or less. But first question coming in from Noah72. Trade Courtland Sutton for Derrick Henry. Noah, you started the mailbag off with a juicy question. The Titans don't do this, right? Why would the Titans be interested in trading away their best player in franchise history for a more or less underwhelming receiver the last 2 years? Not saying no to trading Courtland Sutton away or even trading for Derrick Henry. I just don't think that's a deal the Titans would be interested in. I bet the Broncos would do it. I don't think Tennessee would. Moses next went up on the show with a third round. I wouldn't mind Hendon being 26 when he gets the first start. So basically, draft Hendon Hooker with a third round pick, and then he's 25 right now. He could sit for a year behind Russell Wilson and take over when he's 26. I'm a big fan of Hendon Hooker. We're talking about a player that was at one point, a Heisman favorite for a stretch up until his ACL injury. He's been making very solid strides on his ACL recovery, but the age factor is a bit of a concern. He's 25. If you sat him for a year behind Russell Wilson, he'd be 26 his first year, kind of like Mahomes did with Alex Smith. I think Hendon Hooker could be a phenomenal quarterback. The only thing that's given me slight hesitation, you only got 5 picks in the draft. If you think Hendon Hooker is that guy, then you go ahead and do it, right? You don't miss on a potential great quarterback if you think he's that. But if you just want to throw a dart at the board, I don't know if 20% of your ammunition for the draft should be used on lottery tickets of, well, we actually don't know if he's going to be that good, but we're just trying to find a quarterback, right? Jersey Boy, is it possible to trade Randy Gregory already? Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. Not really, right? One, let's look at what Randy Gregory did last season for Denver. He only played in 6 games, which I was more optimistic that he would play in more games. Not to be. He had a great start, right? Awesome start. Him and Bradley Chubb, the sacks, the forced fumbles, but then the injury, and then how long it took him to get back from the injury, and then he decides to come back and start a fight on Christmas Day against the Rams. Listen, if you trade Randy Gregory before June 1st, here's how the contract matter works out. The dead cap hit, it's only $8 million. Remember, he signed a 5-year, $70 million contract, but just $28 million was guaranteed. So more or less, it was like a 3-year, $28 million contract. Cap savings, $8.1 million. So Denver could save some good money right there with $8.1 million. But I'm guessing George Paton wants to stick by his free agent signing and give it one more year at least. Maybe next year we're having a much more serious conversation about this. Now, what's your confidence level on Randy Gregory bouncing back? Scale it 1 to 10. 10 being you are Randy Gregory watching right now, and you know that you will be a Pro Bowl edge rusher. 1 being it's going to be worse, if not the same, as last year. Put me at a 5.2 so I can be the morale leader here. Try to just talk it into existence. But I've got my concerns, no doubt about it, probably like all of you do as well. Tyrone, what's up? Signed Jamal Dean, the Tampa Bay Bucks cornerback. Man, I mean, you got Patrick Surtain. Do you really need to spend big at your other outside corner position? Like, it's important to have 2 good corners, especially in a pass-happy league, especially in a division where you play Mahomes and Herbert 4 times. But I don't think spending more on your other corner than Patrick Surtain is the best way to spend money. I get it. It's important to have 2 corners. But I think Jamal Dean might be a bit of an overpay. Now, if you can get him for cheaper, that's a separate conversation. But Jamal Dean's going to look for CB1 kind of money. You got to spend CB1 money on Surtain, right? And then spend CB2 money on someone else so that you don't overpay at 2 great corners, because the Broncos have had good corners the last 2 seasons. Hasn't translated to wins necessarily. What's going on, Garrett? Good to see you here. Getting a QB to back up Russ like Mayfield or someone. I have heard some chatter from The Athletic that the Broncos and 49ers are 2 teams to keep an eye on for Baker Mayfield. Baker's probably going to get like $8 to $10 million on a 1-year backup QB role. Not opposed to Baker being the backup for the Broncos, right? Him or Jameis Winston, you got to admit, if/when their number is called, it would be pretty fun. It'd be a lot more fun than Case Keenum. So if we're going to have some fun next year, let's have some fun with Baker, who torched Denver on Christmas Day. But I'm honestly just not a big Baker guy to begin with. I think we saw that last year in Carolina. And outside of a great 98-yard drive against the Raiders with the Rams as well, I'd rather roll with the 30-for-30 man, Jameis Winston. But appreciate your question, Garrett. Now, NFL free agency is basically here. We're already getting some signings. We're getting loads of rumors. So don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the channel. That way when Broncos signings start happening, no matter what time, no matter what day, no matter where I am, we'll be getting a video out to you guys, breaking it down, offering up my analysis of the move. So subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're already subscribed, turn on your notifications. Hit that that bell icon. That way you get every single piece of news and rumors. Next question coming in from Florida Golf Diver. Have you heard anything on the alternate helmet for next season? I have not. I'm trying to remember if that's actually a real thing or if that's just fandom ideas on Twitter, but I can't commit either way. Not opposed, though. I honestly would like to see the Broncos get new uniforms to begin with. Kyle MF Beck signed Ndumkong Suh. No, Ndumkong Suh to the Broncos doesn't feel like a good fit, right? He went mid-season to the Eagles last year because they felt they were one piece away from winning a Super Bowl. Are the Broncos one 36-year-old defensive tackle away from doing anything? Probably not. The reason why I would pass on him is I'd rather allocate those snaps to other players who might have a future with this team. Not a guy who's going to be here for one season just hoping to win a ring, and that's fine if you're ring chasing. Is Denver ring chasing in 2023? Probably not. Now, we got more questions to field in just a second, but there's a great deal going on at Fanatics right now. You can get this awesome Broncos St. Patrick's Day t-shirt when you go to chatsports.com/Broncos Green. I've already put that link for you guys in the comments and the description of today's show, so rep your favorite team on St. Patty's Day by using this link. Alpha Wolf next up on the show. Frank Clark or Bud Dupree? If I had to pick one, I'm going to lean towards Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark has just been a better player the last 3 seasons. I don't think that's all hot of a take. And I'm going to hope that he comes over and he's like, do you guys want to know what Andy Reid's doing? We're like, yep, sit down and tell us because we cannot figure out a way to stop him or Mahomes. But that's not really how it works anyway. But I would lean towards Frank Clark between these two players. Was it a great? I don't think I got that correct at all. Winston to back up Wilson? Yes. Yes. I love it. I would love this move for the Broncos. Sean Payton is definitely going to bring in a better backup than Brett Rippon, and he may very well go to a player who he signed in 2019, 2020, whatever it was, back in New Orleans, like Jameis Winston. Plus, be honest, if we need a backup to play at some point next year, tell me you wouldn't be excited about Jameis Winston coming off the bench. It's going to put butts in seats, right? He's going to do something fun. Whether it's a pick six or a touchdown, it'll be exciting. More than, sorry, Rippon, 230 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick at the end of the game against the Jets. John B. Rutledge? I saw an idea of the Broncos trading for Brandon Cooks. Thoughts? I saw the same thing. I think I know where you saw this from. ESPN did like one big move for all 32 teams, and for Denver, their big move was trading for Brandon Cooks, which last year he wasn't all that spectacular for the Texans, but he also had quarterbacks like Davis Mills and Kyle Allen throwing the ball to him. I don't think the Broncos with 5 picks in the draft are in a spot to give up one of those picks for a player like Cooks, who's a bit older in his career. And honestly, it's not like Denver is a 30-plus-year-old slot receiver away from doing a whole lot. I'm excited to get Tim Patrick back. I'm excited to see Jerry Jeudy take more steps forward. And I'm hopeful that if Courtland Sutton is on this team next year, he'll get back to that pre-extension type of play he had where he looked like a future wide receiver 1 for a team. So I would pass on trading for Brandon Cooks. But would you, right? Denver can't give up a first or a second for him. They could get a third. Would you trade a third-round pick for Brandon Cooks? Yes or no? I'm not. I'm keeping my third-round pick. If you want a slot receiver, take that third-rounder, draft a rookie receiver. It'll be cheaper. Sure, it might not be, a home run hit, right? It's a draft. It's a bit of a crapshoot. But I'll take my chances in the draft over an aging Brandon Cooks for a third. Derrick Simpson, what's going on, my guy? Should the Broncos trade for Elijah Mitchell? Interesting idea. I just don't see a way Denver is making more trades and giving up more picks, right? If they are, it's going to be for a bigger name like Derrick Henry, which I don't think is all that realistic, like I mentioned at the start of the show. But if Elijah Mitchell can be got for a 7th rounder in 2025, yeah, if both sides are down for it, I don't think I'd be opposed to it, especially with Christian McCaffrey there, taking a lot of the workload away. So, not opposed to it, but I just don't see them getting it done because they don't have many bullets left in the chamber. Alessandro Rhymes, what single position group should we target in the draft first? It's a bit difficult to answer that without knowing how free agency goes, but I'll confidently say no matter who they sign in free agency, I think it's got to be offensive tackle, right? Let's say you sign a big name right tackle. Cool. You go out and you draft a tackle because good chance you could be moving on from Garrett Bowles in a little bit. So that could be a guy who sits in the wings and sort of like Quinn Miners in year 2, he steps into a bigger role. Plus, this offensive line has proven they can't stay healthy. So I will go with offensive tackle pretty much regardless of what happens in free agency. We got a super chat coming in from Kelter Cortez. What up, Kelter? Will Wilson continue as quarterback? Yes, Russell Wilson will be this team's quarterback in 2023. Will he start all 17 games? I'm not sure. But his dead cap hit is too big to move on from. It's over $100 million in 2023. It's $85 million in 2024. I think they're stuck with Russ for the next 2 seasons. I know there's talk of moving on after a 1-year audition. $85 million is just too big of a money to eat. So I think Wilson will be this team's quarterback for the next 2 seasons. I think Wilson will be on this team's roster the next 2 seasons. Last question coming in from Zavely. What is your dream free agent? Ooh, good question, Zavely. Good one to answer. Hendon, excuse me. I preached about offensive line, and when I look at the offensive tackle free agents, Orlando Brown and Mike McGlinchey are really high up there. So I think those would be 2 guys to really keep an eye on. Those are definitely my dream free agents. Denver might get priced out a little bit. They've got some money to spend, but not a ton of money. So those would be my dream free agents if I could get a deal done. Bring me Mike McGlinchey from the 49ers right tackle spot to the Broncos side. McGlinchey would be my final answer. Thank you so much for tuning into today's mailbag. If you like this show, subscribe for more content from us here. We'll get you guys the latest Broncos free agency news and rumors all off-season, March, and into the draft long.